Hi, I'm Jim, and I'm a professional Englishist. Becca is still busy this week, so I wanted to talk to you about something that I think is really important, and Becca also thinks is really important, so it'll be nice to hear her feedback, maybe in comments, or maybe I'll have her talk about it a little bit next week. But I wanted to talk to you about study abroad because it's summer, and a lot of study abroad programs happening in summer. I've done one study abroad program, and it was 7 years ago, to show you how long I've been in school, and it was to England. My wife and I went, although we weren't married at the time. We were dating. We started dating right before we left for England. And I think study abroad is really good for a lot of reasons. One is that it gives you a lot of experiences outside your home country, which if you live in Europe, and I'm not sure how many of you live in Europe, if you live in Europe, you might be like, I get that opportunity all the time. Like, it's really not hard to travel from one country to another when you're in Europe. But in America, we never do that. So it's nice to have the opportunity to go and do that and to learn something while you do it. So we went to a place called Harlexton. It's a manor built in the 19th century. But it's built in sort of Elizabethan style. It's clearly a Victorian manor, but it's built in sort of Elizabethan style. And it's owned by, not the university that we were going to, it's owned by University of Evanston. But we went to a university that sort of had a deal with them, and so we got to go. We got to go with a great professor, and we got to have these classes in these really beautiful rooms. But what was really cool about it was just that we had all this opportunity we would not normally have. We went to Ireland, because it's pretty easy to go to Ireland when you're in England. We went to Italy. We went and spent a weekend in York, England, which is fantastic. It's like one of the last cities in England that still has its medieval walls. It has the largest Gothic cathedral north of the Alps. But what really did it for me, the thing that really made me say, everyone should go and do this thing, is just that you get to learn all of this stuff that you wouldn't normally know just because you're always in your own country. And I'm going to tell you a story about the first bit of culture shock I had when I was in England. There were a number of culture shock moments, but this is the first one. I can't sleep on planes. I should preface this by saying that I can't sleep on planes. The university, in their infinite wisdom, decided that the way to deal with all the jet lag and the travel and everything would be to leave at 10 o'clock at night, because it's an 8-hour flight and it's like a 6-hour time difference, I think. And so it worked out that if you were to leave at 10 o'clock at night and go to sleep, you'd wake up 8 hours later relatively refreshed at about noon. And that seemed like a good way to compensate for the jet lag. My wife and I cannot sleep on planes, and so we thought the way that we would deal with this is we would just stay up really late the night before, and then we would sleep all day, and then we would leave. But we didn't really get a chance to sleep all day because the house was noisy and it was difficult, and so really what happened was we were just up for ever, and then we were on this plane forever. And we were still tired. And then we got to England, we got to Heathrow, and we disembarked, and we were on a bus forever. Not really forever. But we were on a bus for a few hours to get to Harlexton, which is in the East Midlands in England, around Grantham. Grantham was the nearest town. And so we finally get to Harlexton Manor, and it's pretty, and we were very excited. But we also really need to go to the bathroom. A lot of people need to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, and I went to wash my hands. And I turned on the hot water. I turned on the cold water, because that's what you do to get warm water. You turn on the hot water, and you turn on the cold water. And I put my hands under the faucet, and I burned my left hand. And that's when I realized there were two separate taps there. One for hot, and one for cold. I found out later that the reason for this is you're supposed to fill the basin and mix the water and then wash your hands. I never did that. The whole 5 weeks that I was in England, I just washed my hands with cold water because it was faster and it was more what I was used to. But at the time, burned my left hand, and I said, I need to tell Arwen this. And so I left the bathroom, and she left the bathroom about the same time, and I said, I burned my hand, and she said, I did too. That happened. And then for weeks, like, we were fine with it. We just washed our hands in cold water, and it was all fine. And then we got to the Lake District, and we were staying in this fancy hotel in the Lake District. And it was nice, and it was pretty, and the bathroom had one tap. And I said, finally, someone learned how to mix taps. And I turned on the hot water, and I turned on the cold water, and I put my hands underneath the faucet, and I burned my left hand. Because no, they had not mixed the taps. It was just split right down the middle, and half of the tap was hot, and half of the tap was cold. And so that is my story about how I burned my hands twice while on a study abroad in England. And if I did that and still think it's worth going, that should say something. But you should go. If you get the opportunity, you should go on a study abroad, anywhere you can, at least once. Because the reason that you're in college, really, the reason you're in college is not to get a job. I hope, because I don't have a job yet, and I've been in college forever. And the reason you're in college is not to have epic parties, and it's not to meet your true love, although I hope both of those things happen. The reason that you're in college is to become a more well-educated, more well-rounded individual. And not all of that can be learned in classrooms as much as we try as teachers. Some of it needs to be learned hands-on, and there's no better way to do that than to go somewhere very different from what you're used to and experience some really, truly new experiences. So I hope you do that. Hopefully, next week, Becca will be back. We'll be back doing regular shows. I hope you guys enjoyed the outtakes. If you liked the video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you want to, please click subscribe. If you have any comments, if you've gone on your own study abroad trip and you want to talk about that, or you want to talk about your own experience burning your hand, I don't know. Have any comments at all, questions, ideas for videos, and you want to leave a comment, please do so down below. And I'll see you next week. Bye.